The
Maybe
eyeliner
here.
is on
Oh, my
point
eyeliner.
today.
Oh,
It's
thank you. I
so
thought you were talking
good.
about my real cat was like in the.
This is the place to ask questions. This is the place to take notes. This is the place to learn strategy. Welcome to the Visible Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lewis, and this is the podcast you'll love listening to week after week. After a history in Hollywood, I know what it takes to get visible. And as an entrepreneur, you don't have to keep feeling frustrated and trapped, not able to get yourself out there. Myself, my guests, and even my family are here to lift you up, guide you, and give you powerful ideas so that you can get your unique voice into the online space. Ready? Let's do it.
And action.
Hello, my beautiful tribe. Welcome back to season 2 of The Visible Entrepreneur. We are keeping this momentum rolling with my good friend, ALYSSA Coleman. ALYSSA, what's up?
Hey. How the heck are you? I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too, girl. I am going to introduce you to ALYSSA, and we're going to dig right in because she is the productivity master. Like when she was in town for the Visibility Summit that we did last time, she looked at my calendar and she was like, so it's all in a physical planner and like not on your Google Calendar. And I was like, because this is an area that I feel like I'm very like systems savvy, but in terms of putting in those productivity strategies, I do struggle. So we're gonna be talking about that today. So ALYSSA is a productivity strategist for female entrepreneurs, and she is the founder of The Productive Entrepreneur. She's also the creator of the Game Changer series, where she interviews female entrepreneurs to help them work fewer hours in their business while getting more done and making a bigger impact and more money, which I feel like is what we all want, right, ALYSSA?
That's the whole thing, right? That's why we got into this game, isn't it?
Right? So this is going to be a really power packed session. I want you, if you're driving, just listen and take notes later. But if you do have the ability to bring out a pen and paper, you're definitely going to want to take notes on this one. So ALYSSA, how are things going? How are you feeling in your business? And how have things changed for you since you've coined yourself the productivity strategist?
Things are going incredible, and I'm actually at this point where things are feeling a little bit strange. I was just, talking about the fact that we're in Q2. Generally, by this time of year, I'm like starting to panic a little bit. I'm like, okay, at the beginning of the year, I had these huge goals, and maybe I've crushed some of them in Q1, but now, things are getting real now that we're in Q2. But this year, I'm like, oh, so everything's kind of going exactly according to plan, and now I have to come up with newer and bigger things, because that's the thing about once you start getting systems into place, it's sometimes in the beginning is a little bit more work, but after a little while, you just keep systematizing everything to the point where you're like, what am I even what still needs me? And that's what I'm so excited about, because it allows me to work more in that place of, what am I inspired to do right now, or this quarter or this month, rather than like, holy crap, this is on fire. I need to put out this fire. I need to like attend to this. Stuff's about to hit the fan. Like, what do I need to do right now? And so I'm so excited to talk more about how to get into that flow place, because it's just, I think so many of us came into this because we want to be creative. We want to be inspired. And then somewhere along the way, we kind of lose that a little bit, right? Because we're just doing.
Absolutely. And ALYSSA taught an amazing segment in the summit all about Google Calendar and using Calendly. So if you want to catch up on that, we will put that in the show notes. That is not what we're going to be focusing on today, because that's just one little strategy. We want to go for the big guns, because I'm sure as you're listening to this, you're going, oh my gosh, to have the problem of what needs my attention is the dream. So exciting. So let's talk to people who, their business is established and they're really figuring out they're wanting to get their visibility in place, but in order to do that, everything else kind of has to get into place. So what are the strategies that you teach and some of the key steps you've implemented to free up your time?
Yeah. Where you're at right now is that place where things are working, but you're kind of thinking like, okay, I'm on a roll, but now I want more, right? And that's such an incredible place to be and really exciting. But this is when I see a lot of people start to think like, well, maybe now I'll launch a podcast, or maybe now I need a YouTube channel, or maybe now, because you've gotten your entrepreneurial feet wet and maybe you're starting to actually get like excited by sales funnels and making those sales and stuff. But what's most important is to take a step back from all of those shiny things that everyone else is doing and come back to getting really clear on what your main goal is. And this is one of those steps that I always kind of wanted to skip because I would want to jump into like, okay, how many of these sales do I have to make? Or what are the modules going to be in this new program that I want to create? But it's so essential to take a step back and think like, okay, what is my huge goal? Is my goal to be, making $500,000 this year? Is my goal to make $50,000 this year? Is my goal to, start working 4-day work weeks? Is it to stop working at 3 so I can pick up my kids from school? Everybody's, business is going to look so different. Maybe it's to touch a certain amount of people with your message, whatever that is. And getting really clear on that so that you'll feel fulfilled with whatever the system is that you want to put into place.
Totally.
Because if your mission is to reach, 10,000 people this year with your message, you're not going to feel fulfilled if you're only selling super high ticket programs and you only work with 5 people. Maybe your bank account will feel great, but that's not what's fulfilling to you. And maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're offering this really low end program and you're changing lives left, right, and center, but you're burnt out like crazy because all you wanted to do when you got into this entrepreneur thing was make enough money so that you could, sell everything and backpack across North America or whatever it is for you and your business.
I want to talk about, this is like sparking so many things in my brain. I want to talk about zone of genius and I want to talk about free content. So don't let me forget. But the first thing that I think is really important and something I had to do at the beginning of the year, so you're not alone. Like Alyssa and I were just talking about, I had this huge frozen shoulder situation. I could only work an hour or 2 in my business a day. Wow. Like for a shark personality that usually does like 10 to 12, that was sobering. I felt like such a loaf because I couldn't even move. But so I was really forced to analyze things and go, what do I want to be creating this year? And there's a lot of things in the works. So therefore, what do I need to give up my rights to? What do I need help with? Where do I need support? And for me, it came down to my free content. I realized I really needed to bring a couple of people on to handle a lot of what goes into this podcast process. I love interviewing one-on-one and I want to get the message out there, but I could no longer spend the, 4 to 5 hours a week creating all the graphics, doing all the scheduling and all that. So bringing on people and then going, okay, social media, I'd love to kind of point people in the right direction, but I'm also going to bring someone on to help me with all of that. So can you touch on being able to step back, look at your business and find that loophole of what we all feel like we need to do for our visibility, which is posting on Instagram, Facebook, live streams, all of that. How do you decrease the time that takes, whether it's bringing on a team or some things that you've done yourself, so that you have more time to work on the paid stuff so that you can actually support your business?
Absolutely. So this is so massive and is one of those things that I think most of us feel almost like drowning in, because we should blog, we should do a live video, we got to post on social media, you got to keep up with your Instagram stories like 5 times a day without being on your phone all day long. Like where is the middle ground? And so you touched on 2 really important things. The first thing is finding your zone of genius. And this comes into your content as well. So for you, it's very much showing up and being, live. That is such a huge part of your zone of genius because people really connect with you when you're live on video. And that's maybe not the case with everyone. Some people are incredible at the written word and their soul just comes through as soon as they write something. Some people hate video and just want to be on audio. That's great because you feel more comfortable. And so think about like, when do I feel most confident sharing my message? And go in that direction and just stay there. Like, don't worry if other people are doing podcasts, like maybe be a guest or something, but wherever you're, you feel like you are connecting with your community the most and where you feel like your authentic self the most is going to be most important for that content. But then there's the other side of things, which is straight up systems. And this is where you need to take your content and you need to repurpose the crap out of it, because you should really only be putting out one big, like larger piece of content every week. Or on your own schedule. Some people do bi-weekly, whatever it is for you. But
oh my God, bi-weekly, that stresses me out. It's like, more than once a week?
Yeah. Whatever it is for you, you should really be just putting out one big thing a week and then being able to have you or your team, ideally someone on your team, if you're at that point, take that and turn that into a little snippet for an Instagram story, turn that into something. And also, like, I talk so much about having your old content be repurposed for you all the time is just a lifesaver, because I know that if someone randomly stumbles upon my corner of the internet, it's not even really a corner, it's like a sliver of the internet, they're going to be able to binge, which is what we all do. Like, that's kind of what the data is showing us, that we're not really as what's the word, like, married to a specific person. What we'll do is we'll kind of go in every now and again and we'll binge all of their content.
It's like, just like Netflix.
Exactly. That's what we're all doing, right? Who's keeping up weekly with their shows? Like, seriously, not me. So I know if someone wants to binge my stuff, it's all there on my website. It's also going out on social media, because God knows people are not keeping up with me every single week. So I'm going to bring that old stuff back as much as possible, as well as once a week, I go in for 2 hours and I figure out, all right, what's my social strategy in the, the main areas that I want to be spending my time in social media, and can I, batch as much as I can right now, because God knows we can't be spending all of our time on social media. Especially, I find Facebook is a huge time suck. You get in there and I forget why I'm there, and it's a whole thing. So having a strategy, and a lot of times you kind of have to know your zone of genius, but you also have to know, like, your kryptonite. Like, what is it? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? And if it is, then that's definitely something you need to outsource. Find your, like, the person who can who can take the kryptonite away from you.
Absolutely. So in terms of, because I think social media, huge topic. I don't want to talk about Pinterest today. I don't want to talk about YouTube today, because that's more search engine based. Let's stick with the more true social media platforms. What are some key productivity strategies, like you mentioned, batching out your time to figure out what your content's going to be for 2 hours? But then how do you plan that out? And then what tools do you use to schedule that?
Yeah, so let's say for the two main social media platforms that I use and I kind of keep updated are Facebook and Instagram. That's where my people are at. Twitter, God knows what's happening on Twitter, so I just steer clear of it. But Instagram and Facebook, I have specific strategies, and like I said, I only go in once a week for 2 hours. So for Facebook, I have 3 specific Facebook groups that are kind of my home base. These are the people who I know are my ideal client, and also I like hanging out there. The vibe is right. And I think 3 is really like the max you should really choose as your people. If you just do 2, that's totally fine. But what I do is I plan out 3 distinct pieces of content. They can be short, they can be long, they can have an opt-in, they cannot. And then I figure out what image is going with that, what do I want to say, what's my call to action, and when am I going to post it. I plan all of that out on Friday, and then I put it in my calendar. I put everything in there.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is kind of a whole beast, and I generally try to do that once per month, and then just kind of upkeep once a week. So once per month, I'll map out like the entire month, because I don't know about you guys, but the grid of the feed, I could get lost reorganizing that for hours. So then what I do is I worry about how it looks first, because that will just take me so long. And then what I do is I go into each image in later.com, and I just give myself a little writing prompt. So I kind of get on a roll and say, like, write something here about what you want to take off your to-do list this week. Write something here about that one time that you got lost on the beach. And then I'll leave it alone and come back to it and write all of that actual content.
Oh, I love that strategy. I use Planoly myself.
Yeah.
I've been putting off upgrading it to pay like $10 a month just because ridiculous. And but I like the idea because I think what overwhelms me is I used to do it all in Google Docs, and it was a
Yeah.
pain trying to figure out what does the grid look like and what's
Yeah.
happening because I was using Grum and it just wasn't, it
It
doesn't
was a
let you
whole
do the
thing.
grid thing. Yeah, it was a whole thing. So I love first going in visually because I've
Yeah.
noticed that's a place where I struggle, and I should be looking at it more of a grid and highlighting my primary colors, but also having space. I don't have a lot of space in my feed like you do.
Right.
Seeing it more as that editorial, that magazine, that beauty, and then stepping away because you've been really, really creative. Then
Yeah.
coming back and writing it out, Alyssa. I love
It's
that.
genius. Because the thing is, we kind of have to work with the way our brain works. A lot of times, what we like to do is do it really systematically. Like step one, do this, step two, do this, step three, post it. Because that kind of makes sense in our brain. But the way that our actual motivation and our productivity works best is to do like things together. So sourcing your images and then, doing the grid together, that makes sense because you're in your like creative mojo.
Right.
Whereas writing is a lot more, you have to totally be in a different zone. You got to like light your sage and like get into the space of, what does my community need to hear, or like what do I really feel like I need to share that I haven't been lately, and things like that. Because what I found is I was trying to write on the fly, like it would say, hey, you have to post right now, and I would just be like, look at this picture of a beach. It was so invaluable. And I'm like, why am I even spending any time on this? So I go in with a clear mindset of like, this is my intention.
Yeah. And I'm going to bust out my Instagram while we're talking because I find this to be really interesting. So the newer things on Instagram, just curious if you have any takes on this. Are you utilizing the little, I don't think you are, but this is something that might be for both of us to do. They have these little like circle grids, like
The highlights.
the highlights.
The highlights.
And
That
I'm
is
like,
actually on my
me
April
too.
to-do list.
Okay,
And it's
awesome.
like coming to a close.
Beautiful, because
So
Sam does it, so I'll bring hers up while we talk about it. So talk about what you think.
So I've been really jamming out on this because I'm like, both of us are a very, wedding
There it is.
podcast about me freebies.
Yeah.
So we're both very strategy based, and I don't want to just have something there for the sake of here's more of stuff that I've already done, and but it's great for the binge. So here I have it written down, so I'm going to open my Google Notes so I can
Please
see
do.
what I'd like
And
to
if
add.
you're watching this on YouTube, you can admire Alyssa's cat eye. I'm like looking at it right now.
Is
The
it
eyeliner
here?
is on
Oh, my
point
eyeliner.
today.
Oh, thank
It's
you. I
so
thought you were
good.
talking about my real cat was like in the.
Your cat is climbing up the flowers behind you on the wall.
I would not be surprised, to be honest. Okay, so basically what I've been thinking for the strategy of this is to have, because I want to use this as a place for people to get to know me if they're just stumbling on my Instagram, but also maybe to have, specific opt-ins, and specific, instead of having a link tree, have kind of my home base of like, these are my offers. These are the free things that would be awesome for you. This is where all my blogs are. If you kind of want to binge, see like, what does she talk about? So kind of my thoughts are having one for free goods, opt-ins, anything free that anything free. And then alternate it with something like travel. So kind of just, more nurture kind of content. Then go back into blogs, and that can be all my blogs because I always post on Insta story when I have a new blog.
Yeah.
Then have something again that's like musings or just random, because I talk about a lot of random stuff on Instagram stories. And then also maybe like a section to up level or to paid offers, for whenever I talk about offers or offers.
I like
Anything
that
paid.
idea. I'm thinking like, what if we went, so this is like for you and I and the people listening to this, what if we went the extra mile? Because if you look at the Netflix model, because I think you're totally right. And I was just talking about this last week with Camila Gornia, saying, I think episode 3 of the podcast, I'm actually going to release all the episodes at once so
I
people
love
can
that.
binge, right?
I love that.
So it's not happening this season, sorry guys, but it will be happening. But like when you sign on to Netflix, what makes you want to binge watch a show? Yes, it's word of mouth, but more so it's visual and it's the preview. That's like 20 or 30 seconds. So what if we put more like production detail into that and had like a meet you little story preview that you like shot? You could still do it with your phone, but where you can be like,
great
hey,
idea.
I'm Michelle and here's the different things about me. And the next story is with hubby and with Pug and like different,
It could almost be like the menu on your website.
Totally. That's what I'm thinking.
That's a great idea.
Because then you can do your number one lead generator or free content, whether it's your blog or your podcast. So for me, it'll be the podcast. Then you can talk about, your low cost offers, maybe then the higher things, and maybe even other people that you recommend following. Like what if you had that, sharing
That's
the
true.
wealth. So this is exciting.
It's so exciting. I've actually been Googling, like, what's the strategy? What are people, having success with? And it's not something that's actually talked about a lot. I think a lot of us are just sort of, playing around with it, see what works, changing our icon covers.
Yeah, right.
Making it look pretty. But yeah, that's absolutely something that I'm looking to level up in the next month. And I'm excited that we'll do it together.
So you heard it here. So by the time this goes live, because I think this goes live July 2nd, go to both of our Instagrams and check out what we've done, Visibility Vixen and ALYSSACOLEMAN.ca, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See what we've done. Let us know. Message us. We would love to hear about it. That's going to be really fun. And I can't wait to implement that project. Okay.
Me too.
So let's move our focus now into paid content. People are wanting to create courses, memberships, coaching packages, all kinds of stuff. It can feel really stressful because they feel like all their energy is going into free content. How have you, because I know you talked about this a couple months ago, how have you really been able to utilize that so you have the free time and space and organization to get those bigger things accomplished while still maintaining the free content for lead gen?
Yeah. So one thing that's been huge for me is outsourcing some copywriting when I need to, because what that does is it allows me to break down what I want my free content to be about, and talk about the strategy, but then I don't have to worry about making it beautiful with words and stuff like that. So what I do, actually, I have a process with someone on my team, and I really recommend this. If you can find a great copywriter, which for me was a roller coaster to find someone who can really write in my voice. If you can find someone that works well with you, I film a little video and I just jam out on the topic. I can talk about it all day long. Film a loom. I'm like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. And then I'm also talking about examples or talking about, making references to whatever TV show I'm watching at the time and stuff like that. And then she takes that complete word vomit and she turns it into something that makes sense. Step 1, step 2, step 3. She adds in those references I was making and sends me back the first draft. And that allows me to map out my next 10 pieces of content and then not worry about it for 2 weeks.
Awesome.
So nice.
Awesome. And so you're able to not be so in the nitty gritty of creating all that different stuff so that you're focusing on the paid stuff.
Yeah. And you know what else is super important is I have 1 day a week that's for content. So I'm working on those blogs come back to me. I work on that blog. I write the email that goes along with the blog. I think about what I want to write on, Instagrams that go along with it or on Facebook. And I do all of that in 1 day, just my free content. I do that on Monday and I make sure it goes live on Wednesday. And then, one of the other days of the week, for me, it's the next day, I work on big projects. So whatever I have on the go, if I want to do a new webinar, or if I want to do, make a whole new course, which is, a big kahuna. And side note, something I want to put out there is you can sell your course before it's ready, and then get paid to create that content, because I see so many people spending months and months and months making something before they're ever getting paid. And that's, it's a slippery slope when you're in the beginning and you don't have paid clients coming in, or you don't have passive income coming in, and you're spending all your time making a course that hasn't been sold yet. Sell it first. Side note, people will buy it, and then it's even better because then you can tailor it specifically to those people who are in the program. So day 2 is all about, working on my paid offers or bigger projects or, secret projects and things that I want to do. And I really make sure that I limit it to just being Monday, that I work on anything free.
Awesome. I love that. I love theming your days. It's something that has been a little crazy for me while filming the podcast, but it's something I really like because what I hate is having 100 tabs open and having to switch my focus between a million things. But so important to theme your days. And for those of you that are curious in terms of how I've kind of leveraged myself out of my production side of my podcast, what I did is I used the editor who edited the web series that I directed, asked him, hey, do you want to do this on the side and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, sure. So you can easily find editors out there through Upwork, or even like the college that you went to that has a film department. You can easily get that part outsourced. Yeah. And then I brought on a podcast manager and then an intern, so they handle all of all the information in Calendly that has, like, for example, Alyssa's email and links and bio and all that, and he puts it all in there and keeps everything organized and then does all the uploading. We went through a tutorial of podcasting from start to finish of all those things, and it took me a nonstop hour of talking to take them through every process. And I finished, and Pablo was like, Michelle, how have you been doing this? And I was like, holy moly, like this has taken up probably 10 hours of my week every single week. Crazy. And you don't realize it when you're in it.
Yeah, you really don't, because we're in the trenches and we enjoy, that's a terrible reference. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure it's nothing like doing a podcast. But we're kind of in the thick of it and we love doing it, which is what makes it really, dangerous, because time can slip by so quickly. But what you'll notice is and I'm sure you did notice, is that you start to feel burnt out because editing the podcast and doing, the follow-up and the social media, it's just not
I stopped for 6 months. I was so burnt out. So it's so true. And I wasn't focusing on the paid stuff because I was so busy trying to produce the free stuff.
Yeah. And I was really, two things about that actually. One, you can absolutely hire someone on for a really small amount of time. Like you can hire someone for 2 hours a week. Because I know a lot of people, and I was definitely like this, I was really nervous to hire the first person on my team because I thought it was going to be a lot of work to train them. And I didn't think anyone could do it like I could, which was totally my ego. But you can totally bring someone on, even 1 hour a week, and you'll notice how much you can really take off your plate in that time. And it's almost addictive because you start to get better and better at delegating.
Yeah. So I'm not, by any means, for people listening, I'm not saying like, get a team. I'm just telling you to look at, and I think Alyssa's saying the same thing, look at where most of your time is spent. And I believe she has an exercise that you actually go through this process. And I can link that below. So just email that to me. But look at where you're spending your time. And if so much of it is around free content, that's awesome. You're serving at an amazing level, but you can't sustain profitability if you keep going like that. So either figure out like having it all be one day, like she's saying, or can I maybe not produce quite as much, or maybe should I bring someone on for a couple hours a week so that you can focus on the other areas and actually start benefiting from all the hard work that you're putting out there.
Yeah. And you know what's super, super important that I should mention is that every piece of free content that I have has a purpose in my sales funnel. So anytime I put out a blog, it could be about absolutely anything, but I have a piece of, well, actually, it couldn't be about absolutely anything because I only write things that are around the same area that I have something, a freebie around. So I have a piece of content upgrade or a lead magnet or a workshop that they can come to. And in the beginning, it was just one thing. I just had one opt-in and I thought, how can I, write a bunch of different blogs or talk about different things that would make me say, oh, and you know what would help you even more is this free opt-in. And that opt-in then leads them to my one-on-one offer. So even in the beginning, if you just have one-on-one, make sure that that process is set up. So if you feel like you have so much free content that you just want to keep flowing out of you, that's incredible. And you put that out on Pinterest and, grow your organic audience, but make sure that there's a clear path for them of where you want them to go next. So they're not just binging, but now they're kind of, they're taken on this journey to season 2, which is your opt-in, and then to season 3, which is to get on a phone call with you, and then, developing that relationship that way.
Absolutely. So these things work. So it's very exciting, the fact that you can create free content with that journey in mind. Just make sure you're putting a lot of attention into getting that person into your tripwire or onto a sales call by giving them free value, really coming from that authentic place, so that right when they subscribe, they have all of that relationship building with you. So they're like, oh my gosh, I can't unsubscribe from Alyssa's email. She has too much value to share.
Exactly.
So exciting. Okay, so Alyssa, I want to wrap this interview up. I'm so excited that you came on today to talk about productivity. It's such a huge topic. What are you giving away to our audience today so that they can continue this journey?
So I think what would be so incredible for me to share with you guys, that we've sort of been, tiptoeing around, is something new that I just created, which are the 4 things that I do every single day to make sure that I'm hitting 10K months. So this can be for any stage of your business that you're in, but these are the 4 things. If I'm, PMSing and I'm not leaving bed today because, the life happened to me, I will still do these 4 things. I call them my non-negotiables, and I really make sure that this is the cornerstone of my business, and all of my clients use them as well, because it makes it so simple to just figure out, okay, if I just get these 4 things done today, I don't write a blog, I don't think about my Instagram highlight strategy, I just do these 4 things, then I'm certain that my business is going to be creating momentum, it's going to be growing, my community is going to be growing, and so is my bank account, which is, it all needs to be happening at the same time.
So we're going to link all of that below. We would love to know what you thought of this episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, leave us a comment, leave us a review, reach out to us. You can always say hi to Alyssa inside of the Visible Entrepreneur Free Facebook group.
Yeah.
We would love to hear your reactions and what you are struggling with. So thank you so much for being here today, girl. It was so good to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love what you do, so thanks for letting me be a part of it.
I am absolutely in love with you too. And heads up, guys, I met her in my Facebook group. So there is no limit to what you can do with your visibility. Okay, so stay tuned. Next week, we have a new episode coming right up.
When I first got started with my online business, I looked at people who are getting featured in places like Huffington Post and Forbes and Inc. and wondering how the heck did they do that, right? In terms of me, I grew up in film and TV, so the video part and the branding part was really easy, but landing the press seemed impossible. But then I met a girl named Kristen Marquet who became my publicist and showed me the exact steps to take in order to land places like Entrepreneur on Fire, Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, Medium, Just Lex, the list goes on and on. It doesn't mean that I'm special, it means that we figured out a formula that works and we want to show you. Kristen and I have teamed up to write a book called Publicity Jumpstart, and we can't wait to share it with you. Get on the waiting list now. Order your copy today at publicityjumpstart.com, where we show you the top 10 ways to get your brand featured in the press. We can't wait to come alongside you in this journey. This is by far the most actionable entrepreneur book I've ever read when it comes to press, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on a copy. So go to publicityjumpstart.com and get yours today. I hope you loved this episode as much as I did. Now, we're all about building a tribe here at The Visible Entrepreneur, so be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and then head on over to the Facebook group. It's a great place where you can practice your video, live stream, and really enjoy the community that we have built. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next episode. Now get out there and get more visible.
That's a wrap.